hip hop is kind of like under this umbrella of ignorance, especially from white people. I'm going to be honest, I don't know that much about hip hop, and I wasn't raised knowing much. But I kind of have that ignorance where I'm like, I'm not really sure what's going on, but I like their music, and I lived a lot of my life in that kind of shade.
Yeah.
But then there's also history, and there's a whole bunch of oppression that gives that art soul. So I guess what people have done is kind of separate out the music from the soul, and this has led to the hypocrisy where it's just like, you can't do that quite as effectively as you think you can.
All right, what up, you guys? I'm Bryson Smith.
And I'm Javin.
And this is Who Cares? All right, there we go. So today we got one of my good friends. I'll let him introduce himself to you. Just let them know your name, where you're from, and
I'm grabbing the mic like what's his name? Don King. Okay. Yeah, my name is Ramsteez Dufresne, also known as Ramsteez. Here on the podcast right now. It's my first time. Kind of nervous, but hey, it's all cool. Hungry too. But yeah, I'm gonna stop talking. All right.
That's what's up. So today's topic was gonna be hypocrisies of hip hop, or hypocrisies, right? How did you want to?
Hypocrisies. Okay. Just because it sounds fun.
Did you want to bring up the first question to Ramsteez?
Yeah. So if I understand it right, the controversy.
Wait, hold up. I do want to state that you rap, right? So this is kind of why we came up with this topic, because he does rap, and we'll have in our description his links and whatnot, just to let you guys know that.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I understand the controversy right, it's that the genre of hip hop, the musical genre, has in it a lot of artists that are basically hypocritical, and it's bred a lot of hypocrisy.
Yes.
Is that so? Could you give me a few examples?
I have some, but
well, everybody has some. I feel like now like the music itself has changed drastically than it has like back in the day, like in the 80s or 90s. Like, I'll just fly in my hand.
There's gonna be a lot of those, sorry.
Like I was think like one of the main examples will be like 6ix9ine. I know everybody heard of 6ix9ine.
Right.
I feel like his hypocritical ways has led to everybody perceiving rap as like this genre where you could put on a front and just act like someone who you're not, because he went to jail for something that he completely didn't want to do, yet he had to do it, and now everybody in the streets is like, oh, he's a snitch, he's like this, yet he's a man, he had to do something where he had to survive.
Not only that, like he uses the N-word a lot.
Yeah, he does that too.
Which he shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something?
No,
I wanted to say something. I was going to bring up the fact, and I think the reason why the hip hop culture allows him to get away with that is because I think that being black in the hip hop world is just a social construct. And what I mean by that is like, so basically, you listen to
everybody wants to be black now.
Exactly. So like you listen to a certain type of music, or you hang around a certain amount of black people, and you talk a certain way. In hip hop, that's basically saying you're black.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
That's what I think. I mean, how else? Because if you took 6ix9ine outside of hip hop, he wouldn't be allowed to use the N-word.
No.
If he was just your average, Hispanic person, like black people would question why are you using the word. Yeah. But because of the social construction of hip hop, he's able to use that word freely.
Would you say it's also because it's an artistic medium? Like, because it's an art form, you kind of get more freedom to say what you want?
But I don't think he should be using that word at all because of the dark history behind it, regardless of. That's fair. By that logic, even white rappers could be saying it like crazy and whatnot. So
they do,
and they shouldn't either.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So is that how we're describing hypocrisy? Saying you're one thing and then you're really living another.
Well, that's what a hypocrite is.
Yeah. Okay. So would you say that's more predominant in hip hop than any other genre?
Yeah,
I think.
You think so?
It's predominant.
I mean, what else could you compare? What else could you guys compare it to?
Really nothing. I mean, hip hop itself is like, it's such a grand genre that once you hear it, like you can hear different types of songs. It could be slow, fast. It could be a party song. It could be a chill song. Right. And once you hear that song, it feels like it's speaking to you.
Well, it's the number one genre of music right now.
Like that's why, because everyone's like, oh man, I relate to this artist more than I can relate to another one.
Right, right.
And he doesn't even have to be super lyrical or nothing. It can just be like a beat that makes you feel good. the type of vibes that artist gives off. Like,
Right.
it's such a grand genre that everyone has perceived it as themselves.
Right.
Even though hip hop really started in the black community, so that
It
kind
did.
of like
Yeah.
Right.
you know makes other people think that okay, I can relate to like such and such and
Right.
such and such, when really it's not.
I'm gonna give you a round of applause for that. Also, I do want to say something. How do you feel about the whole, WAP controversy? Megan Thee Stallion and
The WAP.
and Cardi. Yeah, the WAP. What do you think about that?
You know what? That's a good question because I was just talking to a couple of friends of mine about that. I mean,
What'd you hear?
first of all, I just want to say all the female rappers out there, keep doing your thing. You know, you are appreciated. But I feel like it's a really big double standard. in
Yes,
rap
that's what I was
because,
gonna
like,
say. I'm glad you said
You
that.
know, yeah, because like a lot of guys, talk about like, oh yeah, I got a dick like this, dick like that.
Right, right.
Your bitch on my dick.
Right.
Yeah.
For the audience, some of you who might not know about that specific event, could you explain it?
So when WAP dropped, a lot of people were hating the song just because, WAP, in case you guys don't know, parental discretion advised means wet ass pussy.
Right.
So, and a lot of people thought it was vulgar just because most of the lyrics contained that word. So,
I think it was because women were saying it.
yeah.
Flipped it. Imagine if they were men rapping that.
Yeah, if it was a
It'd be
man,
fun,
then
yeah.
it would have been
Nobody
considered
cares.
like fun,
Imagine like
Nobody
even
gives a
from
shit.
early 2000s with Nelly's Tip Drill. There's and even more examples than that of men just rapping about whatever with
And we could take it way back.
There's so much, and then when women decide to do it, it's just like for some reason there's so much controversy about it. It is a double standard. I agree with you.
It is because like for some reason like people think that hip hop is like a predominantly male genre.
Yeah.
Well, isn't
whereas,
it?
Like, I mean,
It is right now.
It
It
is.
is. No, it has.
It
It's
has been.
always been.
Yeah, it always been, but there have been a good number of female rappers that have changed the genre
Right.
drastically. I mean, now we're seeing an influx of female rappers that are being put
Right.
on the scene, and like their music is hard. Like,
Right.
You know,
No,
they
I
make
was-
some hard music.
I would say this is the most female rappers hip hop has
Yeah.
ever had all in the same pot at once.
It's true.
sure.
It's true.
For sure.
But
For sure.
There's still some gems out there that don't get enough shine.
Yeah, and hip hop has a double standard,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So
That's a
it's
good
just
one.
crazy. What's up, Javin?
I was just I wanted to go more into like why is it so hypocritical? Is it just because it's popular?
It's a fair question,
You know what?
and I don't.
That it's a hard thing to answer
Yeah.
because you just observe it and you can see it, but like it's kind of hard to address it because once you do, it's kind of like a slippery slope.
It kind of
because,
has
like,
no answer, to be honest. It's like
because like your favorite your favorite hip hop artist is going to be a male.
True.
Most of the songs you listen to that's like hip hop related is going to be male.
right.
Like if someone like puts on like a female hip hop song, they'd be like, "Oh, you listen to her? Like
Mm-hmm.
why?"
No, I get you.
I guess you could probably say it's like probably has to do with a lot with ego, like a lot of egotistical male hip hop artists, they're
Okay.
just too prideful to let down that wall to accept the fact that this woman is as good as me.
Yeah.
you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's the one that kind of bothers you about it, like
Yeah.
the sexism in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I know a whole bunch of female artists that are good, and I'm just like, you guys are not getting enough shine unless they're talking about pussy.
Or showing off their bodies or
showing-
whatever.
Yeah, showing off
Yeah.
ass or something, because like, just like you said, hip hop is predominantly male, but that's what we like.
You think they feel like that's all they have to offer in the hip hop space?
No, hell no.
Right.
I mean-
but do you think they feel like that though?
I don't think they feel like it.
Like look at Nicki Minaj.
I mean-
aside from her actually knowing how to
Like,
rap,
yeah, I think like Nicki Minaj and
she's already
like
yeah.
she made some pretty cool songs, then she made some whack songs, but the thing about her and Cardi B, I think that they're like genius level of marketing because they know the status of hip hop and they know that they're women, so they know how to manipulate it,
Okay. So if we're gonna talk about marketing, then would you say that because its roots are in marginalized communities like black people, were oppressed. In case you didn't know, FYI. And
Google it.
You'll find it. So that means that, you know, white people have been taking shit from black people since the dawn of time. So when hip hop came about, that was just another thing.
Right.
So would you say that the marketing that came from hip hop developing into the mainstream from a marginalized community leads to the hypocrisy? For example, like Fuck the Police. That's a song about people being oppressed by the police, but it's been used in the mainstream to just be like, oh, isn't this fun? Isn't this just a funny, cool song? Do you think that's why it's so hypocritical? Because of that double standard in that community?
That's a good question, man. That's deep. Yeah.
That is a good question.
That is a good question. Yeah, honestly, marketing has to deal with a lot of it because when Fuck the Police came out, it was like, I think when it came out, it was a warning. You know, it was showing people the true case of police brutality in its dominance in low income areas.
Right.
Yet how it was marketed, it was like, oh, this is gangster music. People who listen to this are thugs, you know.
Crazy.
Whereas like, you know, when you look back in the day, like the only thug in the NWA group was Eazy-E. Like he was the only one.
Actual,
Yeah, the actual thug. Everybody else were just kids trying to make music, trying to get out.
Pretty much just rapping about their environment.
Yeah,
what they
just
were
rapping about
by.
the environments. You know, they see what they were in, and they're just trying to give the world a glimpse. You know, a POV.
Yeah, something real.
Yeah, you know, something real. But it's like once you hear something like that, something raw, something that's untamed, you know, it's kind of scary. So it's like people.
You think so?
Yeah, because people aren't going to be used to it, you know?
For some reason, I'm drawn to those things. Me personally, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like, I like the raw and I'm like, all right, this is the real stuff.
Because
That's
it's
just
like,
me,
you know, it's like, because people who can relate to it say, like, you know, if you're black and you hear a black dude talking about, like, police brutality and everything, you're going to relate to it, even though sometimes you might not be in that area, but you're going to be like, yeah, that's real, that's stuff. Like, that's stuff I know. Whereas if you're a white listener, you're going to be like, oh, shit, this is actually going down? You know, so
At least one with sense.
yeah, like you would think like it does happen, but it's like you don't want to know if it truly does, you know. So that's why it's like it's marketed as this thug music, this gangster type rap style, you know, where like I think like back then that's when the crack epidemic was like running rampant. So it's like the marketing of rap perceived anybody who was black and who dressed a certain way and who rapped, they're instantly a thug.
Yeah, they're related to drugs, violence. Yeah,
and that was not the case. So
I do want to say, not to cut you off. Are you going to finish? I just want to say, like,
no, you cut me off.
you just want to continue? You can continue.
No, I think I stopped right there.
Okay. I wanted to say, like, do you think all this, I don't know, like the hip hop culture, like, do you think all this in combination with each other has an impact on why the hip hop culture is so hypocritical? Like, because
I feel like
to get back to the main point, which is you know, hypocrisies. Like, how do you think we got to a point to where hip hop is so hypocritical? Why do you think there's double standards in hip hop? Why can people like 6ix9ine, Fat Joe, Cardi B use the N word? Like, how do you think it's gotten to that point?
I just feel like, excuse me, I just feel like the black community in general, you know, we're a real acceptive community.
Oh yeah, that is true. That's very true.
Yeah, and it's like I'll have some of my white friends, they grew up around me. I remember they'd be like, hey man, so does that mean I get my black card? He'd be like, no. I'm sorry, you don't get a black card. But it's like if you grew up in that environment and if you like seen the struggle or if you have been part of that struggle, then it's kind of like you're now accepted into the black community. So I guess like that lifestyle that you lived around with, you're now part of it. So,
but it doesn't make you it though.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to say because I know
it's actually really not hard to say. Well, for me, but I'm listening to you go. I'm sorry.
I mean, yeah, because it's like, you know, I know I grew up in Rubidoux, California. That was kind of like the hood area. Even though there were some nice areas down there, but there's still some hood folks down there. Like I know a couple I know like a couple OGs, like Mexican OGs, they won't say the N word. Yeah, like
I was
some of
wondering
their-
about that.
Yeah, some of their kids say it. You know, it makes me feel conflicted, but I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, he lives a whole different lifestyle than me, than I live. So I like how I feel like it's like a black person's responsibility to say like who can say the N word or who cannot. But then again, there's other black people saying, "Oh yeah, he can say it." You know, it's
Yeah,
just a
you're
word.
kinda
Yeah,
like
that is true.
Yeah.
That people, yeah. But I think you answered the question when you said that the black community is just very accepting, because that is
Yeah.
true. That's
It's
very
very
true, and I
accepting.
think that's
Yeah.
why that even happens. Like with Fat Joe. So one of her best friends, or one of his best friends, I'm sorry, Remy Ma. She said that when they were growing up, like he would say it, and it was cool. Like, but that's just like that acceptance. So
Yeah,
that's just one example, but generally speaking, the black community is very accepting, and that
Yeah.
is why you see like a 6ix9ine or a Cardi or whoever else that's not black using the N word, is because of that.
yeah. It's like if you are like the outsider in the black group, and the black people say, "Oh yeah, you're cool with me, so it's okay, you can say it."
Right.
Whereas if you're the only black dude in like say a predominant
White area.
Hispanic or white area, then they'll be asking you if like if it's
Can-
okay.
yeah.
And I
then
will
now
say,
you're just like shit, I don't know.
and I will say, and that's still wrong, because those
Yeah.
black people should be aware enough to let them know that it's not cool, you know.
Yeah.
Even though we are accepting, like, but that shouldn't be
'Cause
accepted.
there's a lot of deep history behind
Yeah.
it, man. It's a lot of deep roots.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So would you say that because hip hop relates to hip hop is a musical genre on its own, right? That exists, but it also relates to literally a group of people, a whole culture, similar to jazz, but not quite the same. So the hypocrisies, I guess, to me, okay, let me just state my opinion.
Yeah.
To me, hypocrisy exists in every genre. Classical music
Probably
right?
does.
You guys probably don't know this, but classical music is rife with extreme hypocrisy. People
I
think
did
it's
not know.
for, oh yeah, for sure. Mozart, I think it was Mozart. He fucking loved poop jokes, and he made
Poop
whole
jokes.
songs about it. But we think of classical music as this high class,
Yeah.
top shelf. It's not. It's just art.
You
Just
can't
like
make a
everything
high
else.
class song about poop.
I mean,
And in that same vein, yeah, can't you? Mozart did it. I don't see why you can't.
I guess you
yeah.
just replace shit with excrements.
There you go.
Like, you know, it's just
There you go.
Feces.
the feces. And you're like, this is some art.
High class, delicious. Point is, every genre has hypocrisy, but the hypocrisies in hip hop seem to matter a lot more because they directly relate with actual communities of people
Right.
and culture rather than just some ideal of class and whatever.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So
This is true.
yeah, so the sexism in hip hop seems to matter more than sexism.
And that's
in-
because the history of how white people have, you know, used black women's bodies and abused them throughout history. And you see this all the time with pregnant black women.
yeah.
Yeah, so there's a history behind a lot of this stuff. I know a lot of times I think people think that black people are just enraged and angry. But, well, they are enraged and angry, but that's because of the history. You know, there's always a history behind something.
Well, this relates sort of to a show called Watchmen, the show called Watchmen that
I'm
you
glad.
haven't watched.
I've been binge watching.
You've been watching it?
last night. I've been binge watching it. I was gonna tell you that, and I'm glad you said that. I'm
I
like
only
on,
saw the first episode.
I'm on like episode 5. I was like, this shit is good.
it
Yeah.
really goes into some historical.
Oh yes, it
context,
does. They
and-
even spoke about Black Wall Street briefly.
Yeah.
Oh
You
yeah,
guys don't
Black
know, it's
Wall
like-
Street.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
important.
didn't even
Yeah.
know
Google
that.
that too.
Yeah, but
crazy
yeah,
shit.
Watchmen's dope. Check that out.
And I feel like that relates to what we're
The
talking
series,
about.
the movie's
Yeah.
dope too, though. But
where hip hop is kind of like under this umbrella of ignorance, especially from white people. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know that much about hip hop, and I wasn't raised knowing much. But I kind of have that ignorance where I'm like, I'm not really sure what's going on, but I like their music, and
Yeah.
and I lived a lot of my life in that kind of shade.
Yeah.
But then there's also history, and there's a whole bunch of oppression that gives that art soul. So I guess what people have done is kind of separate out the music from
Yeah.
the soul and this has led to the hypocrisy where it's just like you can't do that quite
Yeah.
as effectively as you think you can.
Yeah.
I agree
And
with
that's
that.
what's like, it's kind of hard about it because it's like, how can you be a fan of a genre if you don't truly appreciate it as it is?
Well,
Yeah.
you know, what's crazy is if you actually look at a lot of the CEOs of these people that own the labels and, you know, the record deals that are in control of that, they're all white. Which is interesting. Even though
That
the
ties
music
into
is
the
a black
marketing, too.
art form,
Yeah.
somehow the white man has gotten control of these major record labels.
As always.
Most of them are white.
So
Yeah,
annoying.
damn.
It's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, it's annoying as fuck. It's really annoying that it just this agenda keeps finding its way into places. But I guess we have a little bit of time left, so I guess I want to kind of contextualize
We
this
can
a
wrap it
little
up.
bit more. Just a few more examples of what you find to be hypocritical.
Well, I'm going to use a great example.
Let's hear it.
I will say myself.
Okay.
Because I feel like when I grew up listening to hip hop, I started off with A Tribe Called Quest.
Right.
And their music was very progressional and inspiring. And when I first heard that as a kid, I was like, damn, I want to be like this. And then Tribe Called Quest then went from Tupac then went from like 50 Cent then went to like a mumble rapper.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
you know, but each
Yeah.
of those artists, you could kind of see like, if you hear the earlier stuff, they're talking about raw, actual pain, stuff that people could relate to. And then once they went mainstream, now all we're doing is just talking about bitches and hoes. Whereas in today's age, it's like if you want to get famous, you start off talking about bitches and hoes.
So you're saying that's what you're doing?
Yeah, to an extent. To an extent, though. To an
Why is
extent.
that funny to me?
You know, I'm gonna have like 2 songs talking about these hoes. I'm like, hey, okay, but and then the rest are gonna be like some deep shit. But
All right,
you know,
I got you.
that's why it's kind of hard, and that's why I feel like hip hop is very hypocritical at its state right now because it's like we can't be true to ourselves. All we doing is just talking
I hear
about.
what you're saying. Yeah.
You know, we're talking about things that we don't do. We're talking about things that we think people do.
Right.
You know, rather as like, you know, hell, how come a dude just can't walk? Like, I mean, make a song about walking, you know, and just enjoying his day.
Because
Like,
that's not what's getting pushed.
right? That's not getting pushed no more.
Right.
You know, like Ice Cube when he made Today was a good day. Like for some reason, nobody's having a good day.
He couldn't release that nowadays. That
No.
wouldn't. That wouldn't. Yeah.
And they're like, why is this man having a good day?
Yeah.
I'm not. The fuck?
So, what would you say? How would you kind of approach that problem? Like, how would you? What do you think a solution is, or a better? How would you better the situation?
You know, I would say everything comes down to the listener.
Okay.
And it's like, if you want to change how society views this, then we have to change what we listen to ourselves. You know, because there's a lot of good artists out there who talk about, who have more topics to talk about rather than, you know, just drugs, partying, violence, sex, and all that, you know? Like, hip hop is not just this angry genre. It can be very positive and progressive and uplifting. So
Right.
there's a lot of artists out there that need that light to be shined on them. So it all starts with the listener, man. Like if you don't like WAP, or if you don't like any other song that's just strictly talking about bitches, change the station.
Right, yeah. You have
Then-
options.
Yeah, you have options for real. You got YouTube,
Especially now.
you know,
Yeah.
right? And if you don't like how the marketing system is, then the marketing is all about, you know, they're trying to make the viewer buy into a product. So if you don't like what they're doing, just ignore it. You know, listen to someone else. Give attention to someone else, and then maybe those marketers will see that person and will start pushing it out.
I agree with
So,
that.
Yeah, it all starts with you, viewers. Starts with you.
And that goes for this channel as well. Like, comment, subscribe. Listen to this guy. I haven't, but I'm going to.
I'll have his
now.
his Spotify and stuff in the link and whatnot, and his Instagram. So if y'all want to check him out, y'all can. I
Check
would
it
do
out.
it if I were you. And we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.
Next time, baby.